Oh, here's a copy of the new Rain Taxi, and here's a copy of Village Without Mirrors. Look at this, a Robert Duncan. This is probably a collectible book. Copy of Research's Torture Garden. They did that great underground series of books in the 80s and 90s. We're here at the Rain Taxi Book Festival, and it is October 14th, and I have no idea what the year is, but you should be attending events like this. Welcome to Access to Art. It is an ongoing series produced by Minneapolis Television Network to show you a little bit of the exciting arts that go on right under our noses in this community. The first segment is focusing on a show Intermedia Arts has been doing for 4 years, and the current is Immigrant Status Contributions. The show goes on until January 6, 2007, so you still have time to see it. Here's a preview.
We are enjoying tonight here to be, with other artists, and other people who share with us, whatever we have.
Jai Nand Lala, Jai Gopala, Jai Nand Lala, Jai Jai, Shri Radhe Govinda, Man Bhajle Hari Ka Pyara Naam Hai. Shri Radhe Govinda, Man Bhajle Hari Ka Pyara Naam Hai. Gopala Hari Ka Pyara Naam Hai.
Since I came to this country, I found this kind of art a kind of the present, because I was very depressed and confused, almost lost in this society.
We think identity like, okay, my ancestry, but we're an ancestry in progress. We're moving towards new generation, creating new type of ancestry, and shows like this give us that opportunity to see all the blend, all the mix, and all the diversity of that we're creating. Because art is also a movement. There's a dialogue not with the past only, but also with the future.
Well, the mission of Immigrant Status is to lay bare and to highlight the experience of new immigrants, especially those who have moved to the U.S. and Minnesota for 25 years or less. Sandy, who was the artistic director at the time, really realized that there was a gap that was left in the community for advocates for immigrant issues. People from all walks of life, from all religions, from all cultures, all languages, packed in this space, a lot of new faces that we had never encountered before, people who were being introduced to Intermedia Arts for the very first time. It was an amazing celebration. I think just the sight of the mingling of cultures, the mingling of languages, and it's, I would say, proof that by presenting art from different perspectives, people come, because art is not threatening. Art welcomes, and art opens dialogues. It opens horizons, it opens perspectives.
So I've been involved in the selection of the artists. Initially, I participated in the in the selection panel, and then once the artists were selected, I went and, with Kofi and with Marlena to the individual artists, and we selected the pieces more specifically, and then we discussed the themes a little bit and how they would be placed in the galleries and so forth. So I like this whole idea of art and community and dialogue and getting to know each other through various ways.
Iranians make lots of food out of eggplant, and this is a kind of stew which is eggplant and chicken. The reason that really I started to do this was obsession. My mind was obsessed with my memory, and I wanted to live with them. And there was no way, really, unless to have a diorama, like, miniature things, and to see. And it helps me to be very energetic, happy, healthy, and motivated. And it helps me really to become more adjusted, and adapted to the new society.
Have more food.
Yeah, I think, no. Well, I think it makes me feel like we can go to see how the culture.
Yes, makes you want to travel there.
Yeah,
wow.
Someday if
see how people live, huh?
Yeah.
I'm Sankara Jeki, and I make art. I make art, write poetry, and I just feel very fortunate to be in such a great company. A lot of great art from different places of the world here, and I was selected to work on the design of the show. So I found myself making some blue tape art, which is a masking tape. Making this piece was, to me, finding a way to work on the canvas, on a paper canvas. I started with ripping some pieces of blue tape, masking tape, painter's tape, as they call it. Then by ripping it and cutting it, and you can also use an X-Acto knife, you can create a beautiful design. It turned out to be interesting because I don't have a sense of how the shapes are going to turn out before I cut them or before I move the pieces. So it's an interesting way to surprise yourself, making the art form as well. It's the idea of losing control and also working spontaneously. I really enjoy the spontaneous part of this type of art. What I've learned from being part of this show is that art is just a powerful way to connect people from different borders. And here we find a community that's supportive of the arts and give people the opportunity to share their voices. So that's how I get to be part of this show.
This one I did, that was almost 1 year ago. I did in the old Sears building, a mural. I'm an immigrant from Somalia, and I came here in the United States 16 years ago. As you know, Somalia, there's a lot of Somali immigrants in Minnesota, more than 45,000. So it's like being in my home, I'm not alone. I will be really happy to see other Somali artists to come in Minnesota and work with me and be together. I encourage everyone to be artists, really, because art, it's a liberation. When you paint, or do ceramic or pottery, I can say you don't have a depression or stress. You are out of stress, really. You are happy.
So here we are wandering around the 6th Rain Taxi Book Festival, and right over here, look, at Red Dragonfly Press, and there's Scott King, who's the publisher, a beautiful small press based in Red Wing, and Thomas Smith is autographing one of his recent books. He is one remarkable poet, and I'm sure that's what he's writing right now. I am one remarkable poet. Likely not. I think he's got to run pretty soon, but I wanted to ask what brought him here today other than the release of his book. Maybe he has a word or two. Hi, Thomas. How you doing?
I'm good. How are you doing, Tom?
What's the new book?
Well, the new book here is called Winter Hours.
Show the camera.
And you see, it's a very elegant, spare design, and it really fits the subject of the book, which is winter itself. This is a group of poems that was written over the course of one northern winter, from beginning to end, and there are probably more descriptions of snow in this book, different descriptions of snow in this book, than you'll find in any other book of poems around.
Excellent. Thank you.
But can I show you something about this book? Publisher Scott King, who did this arrangement. But look at this. These poems are all 7 lines long, and between the title and the poem body, there's this expanse of white, and you can imagine the weather of the poems between the title and the actual poem body.
Snowbound
yes,
poetry.
That's right.
Now, can we combine any two of these and get a sonnet?
You know, I would invite you to try.
Thank you very much, Tom. Though Fallout is a post-apocalyptic and almost ominous term to most of us, it isn't for the group Fallout that's been around since 2001. And it's an urban art center where kids get to express themselves and anchor themselves a bit better in their community. It's sponsored by Source, Minnesota, a faith-based nonprofit. And I like the sound of that a lot because a nonprofit always has to be faith-based. Here's a look at a recent Fallout event.
Can I get just a tiny bit more on my monitor? I'm having a hard time hearing my voice.
The Fallout's been around pretty regularly since the summer 2003, so for a little over 3 years. And we basically exist as an art center and a community space. We really desire to have a space that is multi-purpose. So we have a kitchen where we do community meals. This room right here is a gallery where we have monthly art openings, and then there's a venue space for shows. Different groups have used it for discussion groups and Bible studies and things like that too. So we really want to be just a positive presence in our community and to be a positive and pioneering force in the arts and music scene in Minneapolis. We do a homeless youth benefit. We do one every year with different local bands play, donate their time, and then the gallery, all the artwork is for sale, and all the proceeds from the show and the artwork being sold go to different organizations that are advocates for homeless youth. Other than that, every Friday night we have a meal and a show here, and then we're open pretty informally throughout the week. We're really casual and kind of family-oriented, like we're just a bunch of friends that really hang out together and just want to do something together. So it's like our project.
We're lucky to have John Akre, Access to Arts correspondent for this next piece, the Lit 6 Electric Art Radio Show. John's here today at the Rain Taxi Book Festival. I wonder if you could tell me a little bit about what you found out, who these people are, and what are they doing, Lit 6?
Well, Lit 6 is a group of writers that have done readings at various places around town. They, through collaborating with the folks at Cradle Electric Studios, which is an art gallery, created this thing called the Electric Arc, which is a radio show that they do at the Ritz Theater.
Is this the most prudent use of gallery wall space?
Well, you know, it's floor space is the idea.
And is it true that it's a radio show that doesn't get broadcast?
That is exactly true. Yeah, they record it and they put it on their podcast. But I guess one episode their hard drive failed, so it actually was a radio show that was only seen in real life for those folks in the audience.
This gets better by the minute. The only thing that can make it perfect would be if these guys felt they had to do it because they couldn't drink in a regular environment.
And that's actually part of it too, because part of it is that alcoholic beverages are served at the Ritz Theater, and folks have a lot of fun at the play, and I think they have a lot of fun actually putting on the radio play as well.
This whole event here today would be perfect if they had an open bar. Let's look at your piece, John.
The following program will be interrupted for any important black hat.
Every horse in this one, right as I know, would rather be in the liquor business.
On a city street, someone lives in this hamster cage full of writers, mating with all the other hamsters' sisters. It's Sam Osterhout.
I knew that my career path was taking me towards literary magazines, and I was going to submit to Lit Mags, and I was going to try and get published in these small circulation publications.
Just another night, just as hot as the rest, in a flowing hamster dashiki, she's filling up the cage with smoke. Stephanie Ash.
When you're a writer, you have something to say, you want people to hear you, and you want them to validate you. And so you write in your tiny little room alone, and you hope to God that somebody publishes it.
And they're roaming around the halls and rooms, roaming around the neighborhood, burrowing under the sawdust, making his home in a dark place beneath it all. Sad and cute, but not so furry, Brady Ferguson.
What Jeff said, we're doing these readings, and they're different than other readings. It's high energy, and it's fun, and they're short stories, and there's drinking, and all sorts of stuff.
Getting lost in the forest mind.
Wondering why the world left them be.
Running frantically in the giant hamster wheel of his own mind, it's Jeff Herbach.
Sam and I met at a bookstore after I'd done a reading, and it was a series that Sam organized. But I was lucky enough to have people in the audience actually come to Sam later on and say, "You should hook up with that guy because you have like a vibe that's similar."
Oh no, the stormy night. Oh, it's always the same.
I saw them reading, and I work at Creative Electric Studios. And I came back and I told Dave Selma, who owns Creative Electric, hey, there's this group and they do these readings and they're hilarious and we should have them do them here at the gallery.
Always writing rubber checks, never writing novels and plays. I'm the guy who cleans the cage. I'm Dave and I live in the attic.
You guys have a great, freaking amazing gallery.
We had a show with a theme about a bathroom. It was a bathroom art show, so I was kind of impressed that they all pulled together all these original stories. So then I just continued to lob these enormous tasks into their court.
I want to be the first to welcome you to the Electric Art.
I wanted to make a reading series where people who like drinking would come, where a carpenter who hasn't read since high school would be able to come and listen to a story and be turned on by something.
This is a radio program.
We decided that it wasn't enough just to do readings together, and we decided that we wanted to live sort of a fictive, creating life.
The Electric Arc is what happened when the Lit 6 project moved into a house in South Minneapolis.
Then they ended up with characters. So they said, hey, Jenny, well, you're here at Creative Electric and we're rehearsing, so do you want to read this part? And so I did.
Do you really know karate?
Well, that story is creative nonfiction.
And people always, they'll say to you after a show, how do you guys write that?
We try to do a collaborative write. We actually work as short story writers, but instead of, creating our own universes, we have to create a universe that is 4 people wide and add all the extra characters into it and intertwine all the stories.
I think you should all go with that anger. Let it really get to you. Yeah, sit back and let your inner turmoil do the work.
but I feel great.
Oh, I'm angry. Somebody has literally peed on my bed.
And no one in this house has the power to keep me from eating hummus.
Oh, eat your hummus.
What we do is fictive and not fictive.
They're writing like crazy, and they finished this script this morning. You know, that's when I got it. That's when we all got together and had breakfast and actually, you know, read through the script for really the first time.
We sort of trust each other to write each other into our own parts.
I think you need to shred your novel so that Sam can't read it. You know he wants to.
You're a genius, Beth.
You really think so? Oh, you're right, I am.
It's unique and it's dynamic and it involves they really involve the audience.
Before the show, we're all out there greeting our audience, and after the show, we
write with the audience in mind. We always write with the audience in mind. What we want to do is to entertain an audience. We want to make this some sort of party.
Now we've got, you know, Andy Sturdivant holding up the signs and, you know, doing all different sorts of things. Just, I mean, there's antics.
It's going to be funny. You're going to have some beer. You're going to have some drinks. You're going to laugh a lot. You're going to see some very pretty people because pretty people come to these shows.
They wanted to sing the Socialist International, but couldn't remember the words. So they sang "Oh Canada" instead.
Oh, Canada.
We have thrived on doing things that are sort of scary. We decided to book the Ritz Theater, which is this beautiful theater in northeast Minneapolis. And there are 240 seats, and presuming that we could get 240 people to a literary-style event,
that's unheard of.
we wanted some other component, because when we do a show, we think about the audience.
We're domesticated like dogs. Dirty dogs. I'm a hound dog. Dirty dog.
You couldn't just go out and say, I want to do a radio show, and it's going to be like this, and get together a bunch of people and do it. It's really something that has grown organically, and really it's evolved by getting the right people involved.
Maybe they all felt a little sunshine, at least for a little while.
The Cedar Cultural Center in the West Bank recently hosted the 8th annual Nordic Roots Festival, a weekend-long celebration of musicians from Northern Europe, represented here by the Northside label, who came and performed, as you'll see in this next segment. You might be surprised at some of the music you'll hear.
Well, the Nordic Roots Festival is a collection of musicians from Scandinavia that are all playing music that is deeply rooted in their traditions, folk traditions, but they bring a modern sensibility of some kind. Some of the bands play acoustic instruments, but they throw in influences of, jazz, classical, and other kinds of modern music. There is a bit of a unique confluence of things that makes having a Nordic Roots Festival in the Twin Cities possible. It's partly because we have such a large Scandinavian heritage, and lots of people are curious about music that comes from the home countries of their grandparents. But I think Twin Cities also has a very vibrant world music listening audience. and are very open to discovering new sounds. We have a lot of people that come from different parts of the country and from other countries in many cases, but from all over the country they come, and they come year after year, very loyal, and they've gotten to know each other, a lot of people.
I actually think that the music sort of strikes a nice balance between timeless stuff that would be more in a classical or jazz tradition, and yet it's got all that folk energy, stuff that kind of warms your heart. You don't really have to try too hard to appreciate it. It's all there.
It's the 10th anniversary for Rain Taxi, an excellent publication that reviews books, esoteric, academic, run-of-the-mill, alternative, small press, big press. And Minneapolis is part of a vital community of people who self-publish and produce titles that Milkweed Edition does that even reach a broader market. To me, this event is heaven. It's the 6th annual book fair that Rain Taxi has produced. You can get copies of The Militant here. You can get books from the University of Minnesota Press, Norden Press. I mentioned The Observer already. I want to mention them twice. You got to subscribe to that paper or Google them online and read what's going on in the real arts community. It's kind of an access to art thing in the publishing field. You get Rain Taxi shirts, all kinds of specials today, drawings, and up here, we'll just say a quick hello, and I know they're all preoccupied doing important things. Here's one of the Rain Taxi volunteers, who I understand is just doing a 2-hour stint and is not fully conversant in every obscure small press publisher in America, but you're at least thrilled to be here.
I am very thrilled to be here. I think it's really exciting to be able to see, that there is a base of literary arts and people that support it and being able to come together and celebrate that. I think that's really awesome.
Do you think our heads are looking like they're part of the balloon bouquet?
A little bit, but it's nice. It adds a nice color to the bouquet of balloons.
And what volunteer got stuck blowing up the balloons?
Not me. I actually was originally, I'm an intern at Coffee House Press, and so I was setting up that table, and then I volunteered to help here because I'd love to be here. So
we should do a whole segment on Coffee House Press. It's the history of small press publishing and the underground boom of the 60s and 70s. Thank you very much. Have a great day. And thanks a lot for tuning into another episode of Access to Art. It's on every week, Channel 17, 8:30, Tuesdays at 8:30, and see you again soon. Like that. Whenever they have good titles, it turns out to just be a book about architecture. Okay, my name is Robert Duncan, Robert Bly, Allen Ginsberg, Gregory Corso, William Burroughs, Herman Melville, Ann Waldman, Diane DePrima. Anyone else? John Cleland Holmes. You forgot him. Why don't I just give a litany of celebrated authors, some of whom are being acknowledged here today at the Rain Taxi Book Festival in Minneapolis. Now, which of these letters are in the shared alphabet? And which are these little cuneiforms you came up with to confuse me? Now, is this a G, J, Q, P, or an S? See that right there? It's right after the kind of sideways Tvordiznok from the Russian.